Hi guys, welcome to this channel. My name is Laura and welcome to content that you perhaps did not expect or even subscribe to, but that I still want to share. So today I actually want to go further into the topic of my white eyebrow. And I just want to talk about it, how it ties into being targeted individual life, past lives, and other things. And perhaps you can relate as well, because there are many other things where you can be targeted in. And I think this just kind of showcases an example of it. So recently I came across Victoria and I did share a few videos about her white eyebrow and my white eyebrow on my social media, mostly Instagram and all those outlets. And, it is fascinating when you do come across a person who has the same traits or feature that you do. I personally have come across a few people here in New York, I think up to 6, 7 in person. And then I found her online, and then I found a few others online. And then there are also a few people in Germany who have a white eyebrow too. So the white eyebrow is vitiligo, for people who didn't know. It is a natural condition. So I know some people are confused with putting makeup on it. Why do you put makeup on it when it's natural and everything? I'm going to go into that in this video too. But basically, vitiligo is something that you're not born with. I just want to clarify that too, because it seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding or just kind of like misperception by some people. Oh yeah, you're born with it. It's part of your lineage or bloodline or part of your genetics. No, not really. It's not like you're albino. I think people are born albinos, and that is a different condition. But with vitiligo, and I think British people pronounce it vitiligo, with vitiligo, you're actually not born with it. It develops during your life. And so every single person that I have met so far, not just with a white eyebrow, but also other types of vitiligos, they were never born with it. So obviously you can have it somewhere like on your hand, or you can have a patch of hair in your hair. That's vitiligo too. It just depends on wherever you have it. I have a friend, she has vitiligo. I'm not sure where it started. It started somewhere in her body. And then over time, it's just spreading. So she started with a small patch somewhere. I think it was somewhere on her hand. And then over time, over these past 20 plus years, it just spreads. And now she's almost completely white, like, the vitiligo type of white. Um, Mine does not spread. I don't think Victoria spreads either. And there are certain types that just don't spread. Actually, on the contrary, it's gone back a little bit. So when I first had it, when I was a kid, it was all the way white. I know you can't really see it in this particular light, but now it actually went back a little bit here on the side. So it went back like that when I was a kid too. I don't know how it was for her, because she actually has the exact same eyebrow I do. She also has like the 3/4 or more than half that's white. So with her, you can find her on TikTok, and I think you can find her on YouTube too. Be Victorious, if I'm not mistaken. On TikTok, it's Victoria Mary. What I found so cool is, I was randomly looking up the hashtag white eyebrow, because I look it up randomly just to see, ooh, is there something I'm missing? Maybe I'll come across another person who has it. I looked it up recently. I found her. I was actually really excited because I'm like, wow, I am so excited for her showcasing her journey with it. She has way more followers. I mean, at this point, I think she had more than 60 or 70,000 followers on TikTok. So it's always great to see that one of us is not being censored, which in this case, her. And it's great to see that she's making it her thing. Like, I think it's just so refreshing to see that. And she just has all these videos on debunking myths on it and other things, like how she puts makeup on it and how her life is in general. I think she's somewhere in Kentucky, so it's obviously a different life than I have here in New York. And yeah, it's very refreshing to see how a person actually makes it her thing, because I've had it for way longer than her too, but I personally have never really seen into making it a thing. And I think it's just different priorities too. So my personal journey with it is, and I really don't want to even make it a thing. I'm literally just going to make this video. And I think that was pretty much it. I will try to cover everything that I could possibly cover about it. But I'm making this video not because I'm like, oh, listen, I have a white eyebrow, this is what's going on, but I'm making it just to show you this is how a life of someone works who has been targeted from a young age on or before entering this matrix reality, how I deal with it, how I am not deterred on my path by it, and how I deal with the reactions of other people of just looking different or looking out of the ordinary. And for you, this might not be that you have a white eyebrow, obviously, but it might be that you just look different. Like maybe you are of a different race than other people in your area. Maybe you have a different characteristic, not even appearance wise, but just personalities. You know, there are so many things that they can target us with. And this should give you a bit of an overview. So you're never born with it. Uh, myth number one. Okay, so this is a question that I have gotten more recently, or some people are even like, okay, I don't think you even have a natural white eyebrow because sometimes it looks like you painted it on or whatever. Okay, just similar with Victoria. Yes, I do highlight it more, either through white eyeshadow or like this highlighting pencil that's also in white. Why do you want to do that? And I typically just do that when I do videos, by the way. I don't really do this in real life when I go out getting groceries. Why would you do that? Because if you don't highlight it, it looks almost like this, which is like, oh, there's no eyebrow, or it looks like a shaved eyebrow, or it just kind of looks off, you know, so there's something missing. So if you already have a white eyebrow, I do find you should definitely highlight it in order for it to pop color wise, especially if you're dealing with different types of lightings and everything. With her, she highlights her white eyebrow and then she also highlights the eyelashes. So I also have the eyelashes on this one part of my face. I don't go that far, and I think she's going for the Cruella look or something. I don't go that far and put white eye mascara on it. I usually just have no mascara on it, or I put black mascara on it. And it's not really the look I personally want to achieve, but I actually love the look on her, and I think it's great that it works for her. That's the only reason you really want to put more makeup on it, just to highlight it more, because white is such a delicate color, especially when your skin tone is pretty light. Like in the winter, usually it lightens up more. There's not much contrast. And then sometimes it literally looks like you don't have an eyebrow, or there's like a missing eyebrow or something. That's not really the effect I want to achieve. So if I already have a white eyebrow, I at least want to make sure that it remains white in that sense. And that is simply the only reason I personally do it. I think she does it for similar reasons. I'm not sure though. I mean, you would have to ask her, go to her social media and ask her. I've had mine from a young age on. So I've had mine from around, I want to say around the age of 8-ish. It's not an overnight process necessarily. So it's not like you go to bed and the next morning you wake up with it. No, it's a process for me personally that has taken a few weeks, if not even a few months back then. And I remember I was around that age. I think it was around 8-ish, or maybe 7 or 8. I kind of had the patch that went a little bit up and then it went down again. So for me, it's even regressed a little bit, which was fascinating to observe. But I've really had it from a young age on. And so I went through life with it, meaning I went through the most difficult, transformative years of my life. I was a teenager with it. I was in my 20s with it, you know, like early, late 20s. And then now I'm here with it. And I really don't see any reason to change anything, because when you go through a few decades of your life looking the way you look, why would you want to change something? I've always felt comfortable in my skin. I've always felt confident about it. Whereas others, including her, I know she developed hers when she was 25. And, you know, when you develop it when you're a teenager, or when you're in your 20s or 30s, 40s, maybe even later, you have kind of had a life before your white eyebrow. Whereas for me, yes, I've had like my ages 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 with it, but that wasn't my main life. You know, my main life is kind of what happened after that. So you forget quite quickly. I mean, I do have pictures at home. You know, when I visit my parents, there are plenty of photos where I just look like a normal girl with no white eyebrow. And I definitely cherish those memories too. But it's just when you grow up with it your entire life, it's kind of part of your life. And I think that's also part of the reason why I personally don't make a big deal out of it, because I've always been this way. I've never seen a reason to cover it up, ever. Like literally never really even tried seriously to cover it up. I know she did in the beginning, which I understand to a certain degree, because when you're 25 and all of a sudden you get it and you look so different, you have all these memories, all these pictures, all this life before, where like you were this beautiful, vibrant woman, and all of a sudden you wake up, you look a bit different. And not that this is something major, it's not like all of a sudden you wake up, you're paralyzed or handicapped, or you have something else that you have to deal with, but it can impact you. If you're really into the makeup industry, if you're really into fashion, all those things, yeah, it can definitely throw you off, especially as a woman. I feel for women, it's always a bit different than for men anyhow, because men are not that focused on looks than women. Let's just be real. So that's just my take on it. I think that's also part of the reason why I never really felt the reason to make a huge deal out of it, but I do understand why others potentially do or possibly do. Well, what causes it? This is very interesting, because I had a parent, specifically my mom, who would actually want to always find the reason for it, because I feel intuitively she maybe felt guilty for it somehow, for whatever reason. And so she was always running from one doctor to the next and to the next. And this is, in Germany back in the days. And what I always found interesting, and we kind of gave up after 2 years, by the way, that the mainstream scientists, including this mainstream doctors, could never tell us what it is. They took samples of my hair, they took samples of my eyebrow hair, like everything. They could never tell us what the reason really is. And for me, that was just such a huge confirmation that the mainstream really doesn't know much about us personally as humans. They always want to put us in these categories and containers. But when someone is a little bit different than others, they don't like that, because they don't have an answer for that, right? I personally think, just by doing my own intuitive psychic readings on it, and just in general by observing things, I think it's a mix of a few things. So it's definitely a mix of being a targeted individual, them trying to get to our appearance and also our confidence. It's just another thing that we have to deal with, like just we in general, the targeted individuals, we have to deal with in daily life, like battle in the daily matrix reality we're currently in. We have to spend energy, communicating with people who maybe have an issue with the way we look, or, oh, why do you have a white eyebrow? Why are you so confident about it? Like, I don't like your energy, just those type of things, right? Because perhaps some people around you really don't like it, such as those NPCs or background characters. There's definitely some staring involved, which I want to talk about too. And yeah, so I feel it's just a mix of them trying to get to us in the sense of robbing us of our energy that we could use more productively elsewhere, trying to belittle us or just kind of rob us of our confidence and be like, listen, you're worthless because you don't look like the average person, just those type of things. But I also think that it is a mix of past life trauma, possibly. And maybe there's something else behind it altogether. Maybe there is like this alien thing. Yes, we're from a different planet, the different star, and this is our mark. And there are so many reasons that I could name that are really not that relevant for this short video that I want to create. Now, to the staring. Okay, I'm in New York City, and I have been here for quite a while already. What I do have to say, in New York City, people just don't really stare in general. They do in other parts of the US, but New York City is really this one city where the more unique you look, the more artistry you look, the more hipster you look, the more punky you look, the more blue hair type of faux fur you wear, all of that, the better. The more you draw attention to you, the better, if that's really what you're going for. And I'm not going for that, by the way, but I do have friends who go for that. So I know. In New York City, I do have to say, it's actually great having experienced that through the past 14, 15 years that I've been here, because those have been very transformative years for me as well. So it's great to have just experienced that aspect where I can be as normal as I want to, and I can walk around the way I want to. And it really did give me a huge boost in my confidence just in general, how to live my life and how to look and how to appear and my personality altogether, which I feel I probably would have not gotten if I had been somewhere in the middle of nowhere, somewhere in Kansas, somewhere in, you name it, So I do think it's helped me a lot, just in the sense of that. Now, Victoria is actually, I think, in Kentucky. I'm not 100% sure. I've never been there. I don't know how people are there. It is very Midwestern. So maybe that's why people stare more over there. Maybe not. What I do have to say about the staring is, first of all, what I found is because she was talking about, she has a few videos on her TikTok about it. She was talking about people stared a lot in the beginning. That's actually not surprising to me, because in the beginning, she was actually less confident and less comfortable in it, most likely. And people pick up on that. It's like their intuitive hits or their instincts are like, the less confident you are in your skin, the more they try to get to you. That's what I've noticed, at least. So when she was talking about it, how she got unsolicited advice from people outside telling her what she should do with her eyebrow, I've never had that in my life ever. Like, literally, if someone were to come up to me and be like, "Oh, you should dye your white eyebrow," the one thing I would tell them is, "Oh, really? What color? Pink, blue, or green? Because I'm not going to look like the ordinary person like you do. You are boring." That's literally what I would tell them in their face. And when you kind of radiate that, people don't mess with you. I do have to say that. I think it's this huge mix of being confident with who you are, dealing with it in a humorous way, and not taking that too serious, honestly. And people stare for a few reasons. What I've noticed over the past 2 decades of having it, there are only a few reasons why people would stare. There are different types of starings. Some people stare because they're curious, and I'm totally fine with that. I'm like, okay, you're curious, you've never seen that, great. And usually that type of staring is, they look at you, they look away, they look at you, maybe they smile at you, maybe they come up to you and ask you, "Hey, that's so cool, you have a white eyebrow, I wish I had it." Like, I've literally had people tell me that. And that's different. Okay, that's a nice type of drawing attention to you, and I'm totally fine with that, by the way. Now, there's a different type of staring where people stare at you and they have an issue with you. And that's the type of staring I hate, because that's where I'm like, okay, what do I do? And when that happens, it usually happens in other European countries, because Europeans tend to stare more, as I'm going to explain as well. I actually tell them, "What are you staring at? It's a white eyebrow. Do you have an issue with it? Stare elsewhere." Like, I literally have told that some people. I've told them off like that. And a lot of them don't know how to react to that, because they would have never expected me to actually stand up for myself. But for the most obvious reason, people stare, or people try to convince you you should change it when they have an issue with their own appearance. I have met some of the most self-conscious people, who are also usually the ones who, they try to belittle it or simply don't understand why someone chooses to look different than the average person. Those are also the people, not all of them, but who have plastic surgery, who have lip fillers, who wear Botox, and who have some sort of alteration because they just have an issue with their own appearance. This is overgeneralizing, but I have met people like that who really try to tell me, "Oh, you should change it." And I'm like, that is the one thing about myself I will never change, because that is the one thing I actually love the most. And they could never understand that, because they are the ones who would wear, fake eyebrows and all of those things too. The people who stare, so the staring didn't even occur until, I want to say, 2017-ish. But what I have noticed is around that time, I want to say around 2014-ish, 2016-ish, definitely 2017-ish, there was this trend in the overall mainstream. No idea where it came from. Maybe someone can comment below and let us know where it came from, where all of a sudden women, specifically women, but now you see it in men too, women were tattooing fake eyebrows on their face. It was all this, like, they had these huge eyebrow schablons where you just kind of make them way thicker than they are. And now it's all over, obviously, but that's when it started, where there was this huge emphasis on fake eyelashes, fake eyebrows, and also lip fillers around that same time. And I have to say, I know other men think the same, because I had my one guy friend basically post this on social media. He's like, "Why do you guys put fake eyelashes, fake eyebrows, everything in your face? You all look the same." Like, literally, no one looks unique anymore when they do that. And that's why I personally will never do it, because I don't want to look like a robot or a clone. And I feel it's really a trend. They want to make women specifically look more like a robot and clone, like all the same, like kind of like this Kardashian trend. You all have like your butt fillers and lip fillers and everything. You all look the same. But that's when it started. And people who usually have these fake eyebrows, they seem to have the biggest issue with it because they can't imagine how someone like me, I don't spend any time on my eyebrows. I might like tweeze and tweak it just to clear it up a little bit, but I will never put, this fake tattoo, whatever on it. When the more people spend on their eyebrows and just their appearance in general, the more they're going to have an issue with you when you don't do any of those things and you still look good, probably better than them, by the way, because they can't understand how you don't want to look like a robot and clone and like a monotonous human being who follows all the trends, right? Now, mind you, I do know I have followers who have fake eyebrows and fake eyelashes, and I don't think you guys have an issue with my white eyebrow. Otherwise, you wouldn't be following me. Um, sometimes I do have to say it's also just small-minded people who have an issue with it. Any culture, Asian, Latin, European, whatever race, you find small-minded is everywhere. That just happens for sure. What I do have to say is, unfortunately, because I am, European myself, Europeans stare way more. I have no idea why. It's not just staring at me, but also others who just look different. For example, I have a friend, she has blue hair, and she gets stared at constantly on her commute to work, and that's in Germany. Anyone who looks a bit out of the ordinary, they will just stare at you. And I'm trying to think if I was the same when I came to the US and then I just kind of got rid of it because people were saying you shouldn't be staring, or if I just in general never stared as much. But I have noticed every time I go back to Europe, it doesn't matter where you are, but it doesn't matter. Western Europe, Eastern Europe, like Mediterranean, people just stare. And it's both men and women. So I know they're not just staring because of my eyebrow, but they're staring just in general because they know something doesn't look right or doesn't look like it usually does. They're trying to find it. And by the time they find my eyebrow, I've already kind of turned away because I don't want to be the target of the staring, or I just stare right back into their eye until it gets so uncomfortable they have to stare away. So it really depends on the mood that you're in. It is a self-confidence thing. Self-confidence does trigger others who don't have it. And trust me, I know at this point, because if me or Victoria, if we were not to radiate anything, or if we had no confidence in putting ourselves out there, being who we are, they wouldn't have an issue, right? Like we've all kind of been, have you ever gone to the grocery store when you were sick and ill? You had like no aura, no energy field. Almost no one really sees you. But then when you feel really amazing and you have like makeup and everything on, or when you're a guy, you're like really dressed up, you just feel amazing. You kind of radiate that out, right? So that's kind of how it is. I do think it's a self-confidence thing. What I also think is European women tend to live in a more competition mentality or competitive mentality with other women, and way more than American women do. I also know I'm not the only one who notices this. So if you check out all the vlogs online, there was this one redhead American woman. She moved to Italy recently, and she was talking about the same issue. And she has no white eyebrow or anything. She just looks regular. She looks like a beautiful redhead. She's in Italy. All of a sudden, these women hate her guts because of her beauty and everything. There was another vlogger, he was British and he's a guy, and he was talking about how he admires American women because they're way more confident than British women and other European women. I do think it's a cultural difference. So I do think, first of all, European women, for some reason, I don't know why, but they're somehow brought up that they have to compete with other women. Not all of them, but you do see that, especially also in the Eastern European countries, I have to say. And so it's so refreshing to come to this country. And I've literally been here for so long where, I only notice when I leave, where you're not always in this competition. It's just a different lifestyle, I guess. Now back to 2017. Before 2017 or 2016-ish, no one really cared about anything really. No one really cared about my eyebrow. Sure, there would be the occasional something, once a year, once every 4 to 5 months or whatever, where I would maybe get asked by random strangers, oh, you have a white eyebrow, how interesting. But it wouldn't be targeted. Okay, I wouldn't feel like I would be singled out like in a store and whatever, or on the subway. Somehow around 2017, something changed. I do think parts of it is because this entire eyebrow trend with the fake eyebrows, the fake eyelashes became more prominent. But 2017 was also the year that I started energy work and I became a target no matter what. So I think it's just a few different things. And now it's, you know, obviously everyone's target. Like I know I'm not the only one who's targeted, like everyone who is against the 2020 agenda and on, like we're all being targeted like left and right, you know. The most beautiful example I always like to say is, you know, like go into the subway without a mask on 2020 and 2021, they would be staring at you. And that's kind of, it's like the targeted feeling basically. So I just think 2017 on, some type of background characters, NPCs, like clone souls around us really just became activated somehow through a program that's in the Matrix, and they just really try to get to you more. But I do remember a life before that where people did not care at all, and people would barely notice something different about my appearance. So there is something to it. Like I do feel we entered a different reality 2017 on, and that's just an example of it. Now, there's this one episode in Seinfeld, I don't know if it's from the 90s, but where he was basically saying, I found this so funny because I just came across it again recently. He was saying, eyebrows, who cares about eyebrows? And I was like, well, try to have a white eyebrow, see how many people actually care or get triggered by that. But I found the episode so funny because it really summarizes the sentiments towards eyebrows before our era, where people really didn't care about it, right? Like it wasn't like the main focal point. And now everyone goes to their specialist to get their fake eyebrows or their tattoo or just to have their eyebrows fixed. You know, I've never even seen that trend up until recently, like I already said. Psychic insight on it. I had, when I just attended all these psychic fairs and whatever's like 2017-ish, 2018-ish, even like 2014-ish, I had like a few psychics being like, oh, yeah, this makes you more of a special person. You must be very special and blah, 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 because of your white eyebrow. You know, they were just really trying to put it in this, yeah, chosen one special person type of light. Never resonated with me, by the way. Yeah, sure, it resonates because I'm targeted, but that's pretty much it. I had another one being like, oh yeah, your white eyebrow because you were kissed by the angels. And she was like this angel card reader. And I'm like, no, doesn't resonate with me either. But yeah, I do agree. I mean, when you're targeted, you know, that's when you're special too, probably. Would I dye it in a different color? No, I have actually wanted to always dye it in pink, blue, or green, but never like a normal brown. So if I ever decide to do like a funky pink or whatever, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid because I don't want to mess it up. But if I do, I will let you guys know for sure. I just don't like to look ordinary at this point. And it's also a good reminder of my own power. You know, every time that I'm reminded, but that someone gets triggered because of my white eyebrow or doesn't really understand it, I'm just reminded at how, you know, there's a power to actually loving yourself and looking the way you do. Now, for you, it might not be your white eyebrow because you don't have a white eyebrow. Oh, right. I wanted to show the picture of another girl here in New York, same white eyebrow, same side, by the way. And she was like in her early 20s when I took this. So, you know, like age really doesn't matter. But basically, you might just be targeted in a different way. And if you are, comment below. We want to know. This is just like one of the examples. And I hope this kind of helps you. Thank you so much for sticking around. I had a few strange comments. You know, there's just troll comments that came in like over this last year. One person is insinuating that, it's a fake white eyebrow and that it's an Illuminati eyebrow and I'm part of the Illuminati because of it. And no, actually, I can assure you, no, that's not the reason. How cute. But I do understand it because it's the eye. And, you know, if you do this or this, yes, that is an Illuminati symbol. I do understand that. But no, actually, that's not the point. And if you just want to have it instead, you know, want to walk a day in my shoes, be my guest, you can always kind of fake your white eyebrow, maybe, I don't know, and just kind of see how many people you trigger with it. For me personally, I'm used to it. I love it. I just like the way I look, and I really don't want to look ordinary anymore. But it's always interesting to see people's reactions to it, obviously. All right, guys, that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for your attention, and have a good one. Until then, bye.